we're going for take 2 on this because the first time was just a bit weird. I've got a lot of knitting to show you as well. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Anna and this is Anna and the Yarn, my little place on the internet where I can share all my knitting, crocheting, maybe spinning sometimes, but I've not done that in a while and I'm not very good at it, and general yarny happiness. I feel like I should have an intro sequence, so I might make one. If there's an intro sequence. If not, I'll try for next time. So, hello, I hope you're all well. Today I'm going to kind of talk to you about my finished objects for January and February, things that have been languishing for a long time that I managed to get finished in the beginning of 2025, and yeah, I just thought I would share all those with you. I also just want to say a big thank you for the lovely reception for video number 1. Video number 1. I really enjoyed filming at Unravel, and I really enjoyed talking to you about the things I purchased there. So let's give talking to you about things I've made, which is a little bit more awkward. I'm not hiding behind things other people have made, it's what I've made. But we'll start with kind of the order in which I finished things from the beginning of January until now, which is actually kind of middle of March, but we'll take it to the end of February because it just makes it a little bit easier. So the first thing I finished in January was a gift knit for my godson, which I'll put a picture in here. It was the Sibling sweater by Penrose, which it's a sweater that I've had a little bit of an obsession with. Back in the middle of last year, I bought quite a lot of acrylic yarn from Hobbycraft to make my mother-in-law a blanket, the Stella quilt blanket, which I'll put a picture in here as well, which I kind of did like Navajo inspired. So I used the expansion pack for that blanket during the test knit and created this design, but ended up with a lot of yarn left over, which has gone into quite a few sibling sweaters. We'll get to the cardigan part in a bit. Sweaters, and it became a bit of an obsession, and I've made quite a few out of this yarn from Hobbycraft. It's their WI Women's Institute DK. It's on a constant 3 for 2, and I think it's a very good yarn for gift knits for people who don't understand or want to deal with wool, the care for wool. So if you just want to give them something where they can chuck it in the washing machine and not have to worry about a wool wash or anything like that, I'd say it's a really good yarn. It's a bit squeaky on needles sometimes, but I quite like it. And there'll be more about the sibling madness later, but I gifted that to my godson in January, and I have a tradition of making him a jumper every year since he's been born, and I've actually got a little story highlight on Instagram where you can see all the different sweaters I've made for him over the year. I think there's 5 now. And apparently he really likes it, and yeah, I have seen a photo of him in it and it's very, very cute. So yeah, the next thing I finished was probably my towel sweater, which you've already seen on the previous video. I'll just show it to you again. I should actually talk to you about what I'm wearing. I'll do that in a minute. This is the towel sweater by Lizzie, the lovely Lizzie of Hive Knits, and this design, I think the test knit started in November, December, and if I show you, it's this beautiful stitch pattern, which actually is oat stitch backwards, hence the sweater being called the towel sweater. And I made this using Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool, which I believe I purchased from knit.co.uk, and this is the colour Petrol, though I think a lot of Filcolana's yarns are actually numbered, but on quite a few UK websites they do also have colour names, and I believe this one is Petrol, I think. I absolutely love this jumper, interchangeable in the UK, and it's one of the ones that I've been wearing an awful lot this winter. It's one of my absolute favourites at the moment. This colour is also one of my favourites. Sorry, that blew the screen out a little bit then. But actually there's not too much tealy, petrol-y blue next to me right now, which is quite unusual for me. I might, if I get a chance, include a little bit of footage just to show you the sweater properly. I'm not going to keep getting changed on and off with jumpers, because there's a lot to show you. What I'll do actually, while we're here, this is the Dazzler sweater, which was the cover pattern for Laine, whichever you want to say, I don't know which it is, magazine 23 by Lisa of Woolly Jumper Madness. And I tested this jumper this time last year, and I wasn't allowed to talk about it at all because it was top secret, but I knitted it in Drops Air, in off-white and moss, which I bought from Wool Warehouse. And again, this jumper, it's quite it's almost bat-wingy, not drop sleeve, but drop sleeve, bat-wingy. I really like it. It's an incredibly comfy piece, and it's one of those that I kind of gravitate to wearing an awful lot. I really enjoy wearing this piece, and I have got some black and white yarn to make another version of, but probably invert the colours to the original, which I did for this as well. I inverted, so the darker colour was like the ribbing and whatnot on the white. Yeah, you know what I mean. Was how the original was, which I might try and put a picture of the original in here. There you go. And I think the original was made in Snefnug. I want to say Snefnug, I could be wrong. But Drops Air is a really good substitute for that yarn, and I really like this top. Anyway, back to my finished object of January, February. The next thing I finished was a jumper for my husband that I made him for, well, I didn't make it for him for Valentine's Day, it just happened that I finished it for Valentine's Day. And it is the Celeste Sweater Mans by Petite Knit. I made this in Yarnsmiths Merino Superwash by Wool Warehouse, which they very kindly gifted to me to try before they released the yarn in November, December time. And I think it has a really, really good stitch definition for colour work. On the whole, I prefer using non-superwash yarn for colour work, but I think it looks absolutely beautiful, and actually you can see the stitches really nicely in this yarn as well. Originally this yarn was meant for a jumper for me, the Celeste sweater for myself, but as you can see, the colour of the yarn and my skin tone, they're just not great together, like with my hair, just not great. So had enough yarn to make it for my husband, and I think it's lovely. It really suits him. Like, I love this kind of yoke. My gauge was a little bit off, so I had to knit quite a bit more here in the sweater for the yoke, because this colour work is kind of meant to come down to about here, almost to like on the sleeves, not quite, it like stops just before here on the original pattern, but as you can see I had to knit quite a bit more in this yarn because I didn't gauge swatch. I was a bit naughty, I gauge swatch when I do test knits, but kind of the rest of the time I ignore it unless it's a really like on the cusp amount of yarn, and I had plenty. I've got like a ball and a bit of the main colour left, so plenty of it. But yeah, I love this. Like, I want to make one for myself, but probably in like greys maybe with a bit of green, but I love this sagey green in here. So yeah, that's the Celeste Sweater Man by Petite Knit. The next thing I made, again I don't have, I made the Banff Hat by TinCan Knits for my friend for her birthday in, what did I make it in? Malabrigo Rios. I can't remember the colours, but it's like a tealy petrol colour and like a sunshine yellow. I'll put a picture of the finished version here. I love this hat pattern. It was the kind of first hat that I made when I first started to understand colour work in knitting, and I made this hat obsessively. It's kind of a Aran worsted weight hat, and it has sizes from like small child all the way up to a large adult head, and I really like the pattern. It's very intuitive. You don't really have to catch floats if you don't want to, and it just makes a really striking design. I've made it without putting a pom-pom on top. For this gift I wanted to put a pom-pom on top because you could just, the pom-pom really complemented the kind of orangey yellow of the trees. And I don't know if it's a paid for pattern or not, I can't remember. I've had it for years and I have a feeling when I got it, it was a free pattern. But now it might be a paid for pattern now, I can't remember. But I'll link all the patterns in here down in the comment section so you can find them, and I'll try and remember to put like the yarns and stuff that I used as well. If I don't, nudge me and I'll pop them down there. But yeah, that's the Banff Hat by TinCan Knits, and honestly, if you want an introduction to colour work, I would go for that hat because it's a great pattern. Again, the next thing I'm going to talk about, I don't have any more. I made a crocheted Hello Kitty from a free pattern, which again, I'll link all the details below. I found it on Ravelry. Can't remember the name of the designer, but it was a pattern of like 3 kitties. Didn't specifically say Hello Kitty, but it's Hello Kitty. And I made it using leftover Toff DK that I've had from making various other crocheted amigurumi things. And it was, yeah, my youngest wanted a gift for his friend who doesn't celebrate her birthday or Christmas, and he was like, I'd really like to give her something as a present. I was like, yeah, like, she is obsessed with Hello Kitty. They did like a massive Hello Kitty thing in Japan in December, so I was like, yeah, of course we can make her one. And actually, I'm really pleased with how it turned out. The eyes are a little wonky because I don't tend to use safety eyes, so kind of got them slightly in the wrong place. But she was well received, and I don't think I'll be making another one. Kind of just not really my thing. But yes, it was. I was happy with how it looked in. I feel really weird that I don't have it here to show you that I'm talking about something that doesn't exist in my pile of whips anymore. I've just realised the chaos I've created here with stuff. What was that face I just gave to the camera? I'm really sorry. So, we've done Hello Kitty. I've got my list, I've got my tick list. I think the next thing I finished in January was a long-standing whip, which I'm trying to put on the sock blocker the wrong way around. This year, I decided to clear out my sock box of doom. This is a vanilla sock, well actually it's a pair of vanilla socks, made in yarn by Nora George Yarns, who doesn't trade anymore unfortunately, which is very sad because she made beautiful yarn. This is just my like go-to vanilla sock pattern. I basically cast on 63 stitches, do 2x1 rib, cast on an extra one here, so I've got 64 stitches, knit, 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 do the heel over half, 10, yeah, I know what I'm talking about, heel flap and gusset, decrease, Kitchener stitch toe. That's kind of my go-to, that's my go-to sock pattern. Should we try and do that? And then that can be like that can be my, oh hello, like, what's the word, title card thing? I don't know. But yeah, this is my kind of go-to sock pattern. It's the one that fits my foot the best. Just kind of, I just know it now, it's just what I do. But yeah, I do like a knit and slip heel. Isn't the yarn pretty? It's so pretty. But my aim this year is to kind of get a pair of socks off the needles every month from my sock box of doom. If you've followed me on Instagram for a while, you'll know about my sock box of doom. I went through a phase of knitting a lot of socks in, I want to say 2023, and then I ended up with loads of just like languishing half socks, odd socks, socks about this big, socks missing toes and heels and whatnot. So my aim this year is to work through them, but I've already cast on socks that weren't in that box. But I'll talk to you about them later. I need those for later. I just took them on the floor. I've got my cup of tea. Let's have some tea. Calm down, I'm talking a bit quickly. Do you like my sweet shop blanket? I love this blanket. I want to make another one. Right. Calm down. Getting a little bit overexcited. I've even numbered things. The next thing I finished might blow out the camera. This is a bit of a long time whip. Yeah. Oh, it's not blowing out too badly. The colour doesn't look right on camera. It's more of a cherry red in person. This is the Jenny jacket by Petite Knit. There's a little bit of a story behind this jacket. So it's more like a cardigan. It's in 2x2 rib, but it's smocked. And the reason I made this is because I have a lovely group of friends who I made through Instagram because we didn't finish the Twist and Turns Stephen West MCAL back in 2022, 23. Whenever the Twist and Turns MCAL was, basically we became close friends because we didn't finish it. And since then we have met up at various times of the year, and last year we went to East Anglia Yarn Festival and all made the same sweater. We made the Salty Days by, I can't say her name, I'll put it in there, Kutava Kika, something like that. We all made the same jumper. Let's put a little picture in if I can. It's all about putting pictures in today and doing this. So this, and that was chosen, that sweater was chosen by my friend Angela. This year, well actually in September, Tia, another friend from the group, said, well, let's make this, the Jenny jacket. Have I called it the Jenny jacket or I called it something else? It's the Jenny jacket, anyway, by Petite Knit. It's been a bit of a long knit. So I started in September, finished it about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. Whenever the school half term was, it was finished by then because I went and bought the buttons then. Decided on black buttons because the red ones I bought were the wrong colour. I did enjoy making this, but I learned an awful lot making it. It's just the kind of way it's constructed is really interesting. Like the short rows are not typically how I know how to do short rows. It's not kind of, I mean it is like this, but you cast on a lot of stitches and then you kind of do the short rows within that, I'm not explaining it very well. And the button band is double knitting, which again is something I've not really done a lot of, but it's going to be featured later in this episode. Ooh, we called it episode. Is this a podcast? I might be podcasting. Wasn't expecting to be calling this a podcast, but I suppose that's what this is. Ooh, okay. But yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece, and I'm so, so pleased with it. The yarn I used was Drops Fable and Drops Kid Silk. So it, wasn't an overly expensive piece to make. They're very affordable yarns, but I did make a bit of a mistake when ordering the yarn. I forgot that Kid Silk mohair comes in 25 gram balls, not 50 like the Drops Fable. So I only ordered half the amount of Kid Silk I needed. So there was actually slight colour difference. I don't know if you can tell on camera between the body and arms. I think on camera it doesn't really come across, but the arms and the button band are in one colour of the silk mohair, and the body is in a different colour. It's much more obvious in real life, I think, but I'm living with it. Like, I had this plan that I was going to over dye it, but then I was like, it might still not fix it. Can you tell on the button band? No, you can't really tell on camera. But I'm really, really pleased with how it's turned out, and we're all hopefully going to be wearing them at East Anglia Yarn Festival on Saturday. I haven't worn it out in person yet. Its first proper outing is going to be at East Anglia Yarn Festival, so I'm very excited to wear that. I know there's definitely one other one that got finished this weekend. Angela's made a beautiful, it's like browny neutral, but not like brown. It's kind of, can't really describe the colour to you really, but it's the most beautiful colour, and I'll try and get a little bit of footage when we're there and pop it into the next episode to show you the different ones. So yes, that is the Jelly Jacket by Petite Knit, which I'm going to chuck over there. Right. I can't remember where I got to now. I think the next thing I made, I didn't really intend to cast it on when I did, but I was again very kindly gifted some yarn by Wool Warehouse. This time they're Yarnsmiths. They're Kid Silk mohair, but they don't call it Kid Silk mohair, they call it, oh, I don't remember, but it was to make the Ash Slipover V-neck by Kadri, which is something that I've wanted to make since she released the pattern in September, I think it was. And I really enjoyed the construction of this. I love that shoulder detail. I made this in BC Garn Hamilton 2, GOT2 I think it's called, held double with the the Yarnsmiths Kid Silk Merino in Champagne. The colourway was Champagne, and this one, the BC Garn, it's just the neutral I think it's called, I'm not sure exactly, but it's a lovely kind of neutral tweedy yarn, and I did this on 7 or 8mm needle, no, 6, I can't remember, but I did it to the recommended needle size. It's come out quite a lot bigger than I thought though, but it's going to be a lovely layering piece for the spring. I have forgotten to sew an end in, oops, but yes, I'll put some footage of all these pieces in at some point. It was a really quick knit, it didn't take me very long to make at all, but it was on my kind of wish list for 2025, which again I shared on Instagram. It's in one of my story highlights. I probably should share some footage with me wearing it, but I'm not confident enough to do that yet, so at some point we'll get to that, but not at the moment. Am I whizzing through these too quickly? Possibly. The next thing that came off my needles in February was a hipster hat. This is the hipster hat by Petite. I'm sorry, it's a bit Petite knit heavy. I've made this hat quite a few times though. I've made myself one in white, and then my brother 2 for consecutive birthdays, I think. And my youngest was like, I really want a hat like your hat, but in the yarn that I've already got a hat in. So a long time ago, I got 2 skeins of this very, very bright DK yarn from Dye Candy and the colourway Kevin, and it's like a properly neon yellow. And so I've made it slightly longer than the pattern says for the child size, because I don't know, it just didn't seem to fit his head very well. But he wanted it quite fitted to his head so he could put it under his hood. So I knitted it quite long. I don't know exactly how much longer I made it, but I basically just kept trying it on his head when it was folded, and then did the decrease on the head, which I really like the decrease on this hat. It's a very satisfying decrease. And I think at some point I'm going to cast on another one for my brother, because I have some leftover Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool from my towel sweater, which the previous 2 hats I've made for him, for my brother, were also in Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool. One was like a rusty colour, which was left over from my Cirrus sweater by Iris of Iris Knits, Iris Knits, I don't know how she says her name. And then the other one was left over. No, I bought that yarn. I just bought the grey for the other one. But basically 100 grams, I think you can get most sizes of this hat out of 100 grams of yarn. I don't know why I did that. I don't know if I'm going too quickly. Let me know if I'm going too quickly. I feel a bit weird talking about my own knitting. I don't really know if this is the right way to do it, but I've already been talking for 26 minutes about things I've made. Hopefully I'm doing alright. I've got everything numbered in order. The next thing that came off my needles, which technically kind of moved into March, but we're going to put it into February makes. You've already seen this in my previous episode, was the Russell scarf by Laura Penrose. This is also in Drops Air. Got a bit of Drops Air going on today, haven't we? Let's just show you the whole thing. Which she released on Saturday. So the pattern for this is now live, and there are so many beautiful versions on Instagram. If you look at the hashtag on Instagram, and Laura's been sharing loads of different versions as well. So many clever colour combinations and yarn combinations as well. Personally, I like it in 2 colours, but I've seen some 3 colour ones and some like full scrappy ones, which are absolutely incredible. But it's just a lovely warm scarf, which feels a little bit too cool for me. Like, I don't know, I'm not cool enough for this scarf, but I've been wearing it with my denim jacket and on the school run, and I think it's a really good like spring piece, but obviously really good for winter as well, because it's like 4 layers of knitting, because it's colour work on both sides. So it's not double knitting, it's just in the round, but it's 4 layers, so it's a really thick, like smooshy, lovely piece to wear. Yeah, Drops Air again from Wool Warehouse. I buy quite a lot of my yarns from Wool Warehouse. It's kind of 3 places really, like 3 is it? 2. Well, Wool Warehouse and knit.co.uk, and then somewhere called Maple Tree Yarns. They're kind of the 3 main places where I buy wool from in the UK, unless I want like something very specific. But they're kind of my go-to places really, because they carry generally quite different yarns. Then the last, oh no, I've got another one. So we're talking about my socks. My January socks were those lovely ones with the yarn by Nora George Yarns. Again, I showed my progress on these in my previous video. These are my February socks, which are in yarn from Bird Street Yarns, who I think is probably one of my favourite yarn dyers. And these are those. Let's turn them that way around. It looks a bit better, doesn't it? I think this colourway is called Blue Iguana and this colourway is called Tannery. I used this colourway in my Vertices Unite shawl by Stephen West, and I was going to put this one in it as well, but it just didn't look right when I started it. It was like the big section. They're all big sections. It was like the big bottom section of the Vertices Unite, and I soon realised when I kind of put it in to the shawl that actually I wanted like a flat colour rather than colour work for that section, because quite a few of the sections are striped. I thought this didn't work, but how beautiful a pair of socks has it made. Again, it's my vanilla sock pattern that I use, so cast on 63, make one to make 64, heel flap and gusset with across half your stitches. There's your decrease and a Kitchener toe. I have blocked these, I promise, but it's curling up at the end. A Kitchener stitch toe. So yeah, my January vanilla socks. I can now chuck the sock blockers over there, because that is pretty much everything. No, it's not. It's not everything I made in January and February, or not made, finished. Let's go with finished, because quite a few of those things, like I started them well into 2024. Like the Jenny jacket I started in September. My husband's jumper, probably a similar time. I probably started that in September as well. But they were quite big knits, and I currently now don't have many what I would call big knits on my needles. Well, I have one, but it's kind of, that's a knit on it as and when. So anyway, the final kind of thing I made in January, February is another gift knit, which I've not, no, it's not a gift knit, it's a gift crochet. Are you ready? I made 3 little tuft jellyfish. This is octopus, not jellyfish. This is all of the octopus by Toft, and I've made her in various leftover hand dyes from Toft as well, because I subscribe to their dye club, which sadly is finishing this quarter. Like the last one is coming imminently, but this colourway was from the Beetle. This colourway was, I think, from a Toad, and then this one actually was one I did on a hand dyed course at Toft quite a few years ago, and then I made my son, my youngest son, a gecko out of this yarn as well, and he really wants to keep this one. I'm like, no, they're being gifted, and they're probably being gifted to somebody who will watch this, but you don't know who you are. So these are going to be on their way in a post at some point for my friend's 3 children, and they can choose which one they want. I love this pattern. I've made this so many times I could probably make it with my eyes closed. It was again one of those, like, I obsessively made it as Christmas presents. It's so tactile. Such a tactile make. I obsessively made this as Christmas presents one year. I probably made about 20 of them. I love them so much. Aren't they just so cute? I've got one of my own just literally over there. I love it. I love it. Right, 33 minutes and I've been talking about just what I've made. Wow. Right, I suppose I should get on to my works in progress, because this is what you guys asked for. You guys asked for, show us what you've been making and, you know, show us what you are currently making. So I hope I'm giving you a good overview into that. By octopuses. Yes, not jellyfish, octopuses. I basically tried to clear my needles in January, February. Didn't quite happen. There's one long-standing whip, which I'll probably show you first, which I think quite a few people may have this as a long-standing whip. I've got it in my Hide and Hammer bag. I love this roll-top bag. Sorry if it's a bit noisy. This is containing, gotta be careful, my Go Dynamo shawl by West Knits. This was his 2024 MCAL. I didn't start making it until he released Clue 2 because I wanted to make sure that I definitely wanted to make the design. But isn't it absolutely stunning? The construction is incredible. So it's not like any shawl I've made before, because usually with a shawl you kind of either start at the top or the bottom and kind of work. What am I doing? Top down, so the shawl goes that way, or you work kind of bottom up. This, you kind of started in the middle, but you didn't really realise you were starting in the middle. So obviously I can't give too much away because it's a paid for pattern, but the first thing you did, Clue 1, was you made these kind of semicircles and joined them together. Then Clue 2 was this bit here, which is these kind of very iconic slip stitch holes, I don't know what he calls them now, and brioche section, which you didn't have to do brioche here. There was another option for, I think, eyelets maybe, but I did the brioche because I loved how the brioche looked. And then I've just finished the short row triangle section here, which has taken me a really long time because you basically have to make, when you make each one, you make that one, then you have to cut the yarn and do that one, cut the yarn, do that one. So it took me a really long time to get them done. But you would think, oh, the next bit of the shawl is done here. No, 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 no. You pick up all the stitches along those semicircles. Oh. And it's now back on my needles. There you go. Oh, there. Scrunch it all together. It's back on the needles now to kind of knit this section here, which I think is a lot of slip stitches and little tiny bobbles and things, which again, I've not done a lot of mosaic knitting, so I'm looking forward to doing that. The yarn is Castleview Yarns sock yarn, which I bought at East Anglia Yarn Festival last year, and I cannot wait to go to their stand again. I love this colourway so much. It is so, is it going to focus? It's so, so beautiful. It's like a greeny grey with, it's got hints of blue in it and then also hints of like lime green in it. Let me see if I can find a limey green section here. There's like the tiniest little bit of lime green in it. Don't know if you can see that, just here. It's such a beautiful yarn, and I've really enjoyed using it in this pattern. I'm not rushing through this. I feel like this is one of those knits that I'm kind of savouring knitting on and just taking my time to enjoy it and not rush through it, and I'm so happy with it. And it'll get finished eventually, probably in time for their MCAL in October, but I'm not worried. Like, I love it. I'm so happy with it, and I can't wait to be able to wear it. Like, probably won't be able to wear it now till the autumn. Maybe. We'll see how the weather goes by the time I've finished. I'm just going to keep modelling it because I'm really, really proud of it. So yeah, the Go Dynamo shawl by Stephen West. Oh, and the white, sorry, is Filcolana Arvetta in just like their standard, is it off-white or neutral? Something like that. I'm going to pop this back in the bag because I don't want to get tangled up with anything else. Other things I've cast on recently. So I was talking about my obsession with the Sibling sweater by Laura Penrose. She very kindly let me preview knit the cardigan version of that pattern. I have no idea if she has any plans to release it. She should, because it's great. But I made a version for a friend's daughter in off-white and lilac for her birthday back in, back in October. And then with the leftover yarn that I had from the other Sibling Madness, which is just literally down here, I've cast on another version of the cardigan in the mustard yellow and off-white. And it's got the, I said double knitting would feature again, the double knitted button band with the buttonholes. The buttonholes in this are actually made a different way to in the Jenny jacket. So in the Jenny jacket, you don't break your yarn to make the buttonholes, but in this you do. And I'm not sure which I prefer, because in the Jenny jacket, obviously, you can then just carry on. But with this, you basically knit one side of the button band and then the other, and then you can use your ends to reinforce the buttonhole, which I think is a really good idea for kids' garments. But I did like the fact that in the Jenny jacket, there won't be these ends to sew in. So anyway, I haven't done the sleeves yet. I was like, I need to get the button band on, and it's laying beautifully flat. Ooh. And this will be going to a friend's daughter, friends who live in Edinburgh, and this will be going to them. And I kind of want one for myself. Laura, like, release this and make the adult version as well. So anyway, what's going to happen is when I finish that, I'm going to still have quite a bit of, so these are the two colours I'm using. I've still got quite a bit of this acrylic yarn left over, and I'm wondering whether to either just gift it to somebody, or it would be very useful to still have some acrylic yarn in my stash, because my godson's family, they're vegan, and obviously I can use cotton yarn and other things like that, but because I've got this, when it comes to then making his sweater for his next birthday, I mean, I'll have to weigh what I've got, but I'm thinking I probably won't do a sibling, but I need to find something. I need to weigh it. I need to weigh how much yarn I've got and like see what I've got. But any recommendations? Probably stripy. There's not really. Well, I could do colour work, but I don't have to buy more yarn if I don't have to. If you've got any suggestions of what I could make, kids' sizes like 4 to 6, 4 to 7. Let me know. I'm just going to sit here, keep doing this with the yarn. Oh dear, I had a long night. I won't get into it, but yeah, late night, children and rashes, and it's fine. And then the last few things I'm going to show you of my whips are in here. They don't quite fit in here. In this beautiful bag by Willow Bay Bags. I adore Willow Bay Bags. I don't have many project bags. I have my Hide and Hammer one. I've got this one, and then another bigger one by Willow Bay Bags, and I've just ordered a teeny tiny one of theirs as well that you can just literally put a sock project in. But my current whips then, it's kind of a bit neck weary actually. The first thing I've got is the Jacques shawl scarf by Laura Penrose. She features quite a lot, as does Petite Knit this time. This is the Jacques, I'm sure it's scarf, which is a very interesting construction and a very good introduction to lots of different techniques. So, obviously can't tell you about it too much, but you have double knitting up this side, you have I-cord up this side, and then to make the stripes, you use intarsia, however you want to say it, to create this design. And it's a very good introduction to all those techniques. Now, I've only done double knitting, this will be my 4th time doing it, and putting intarsia into that as well, and then the I-cord edging, it's just so clever. Like, it's such a clever design. So you kind of knit the increase, do the triangle increase, and then you can, if you want to, you can knit the same colours on the way back. Well, no, you do knit the same colours on the way back, but you can either do them the same like this, or you can flip them. So I'm going to flip my colour, so the cream will be the stripes, those stripes, and then the sage will be the main colour on the other side. Not done much of it yet, but these are my colours. They are Tofty K in Kale and Off-White. I love this Kale colour. It's like the darkest, most sumptuous green. I'm having a bit, oh, hello. I'm having a bit of a green thing at the minute. There's one cast on I can't show you at the moment, which is also in green. Actually, it's in the same yarns as these, but I'm not at a point where I'm ready to show it yet. It's a design of my own, and only 2 people. 2 people? 4 people? doesn't matter how many people have seen it. Not many people have seen it. But I'm not ready to share it with the world yet because I'm very excited about it and I just want to kind of develop it a bit more. At some point I will do a video where I talk about things I've designed. I'm not doing many designs and I'm hoping to design a bit more in the future. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, there'll be another video about that another time. Another thing I've got on the needles, and it's another little scarf, is the Dustland mini shawl by Stephen West in this vibrant green, which I got from Ginger Cat Yarns in Edinburgh. I can't remember what it is now. It's Blueface Leicester and Masham, Massam, however you say it. I don't know how you say it. People correct me on how to say it. You know which one I mean. I've not done much of it. This is my Thursday knitting group knit along. We are doing a mini scarves knit along. 2 of us are doing this one, and then someone else is doing the newer kind of mohair one that he's released recently. Glow hair, mohair, something like that. I can't remember what it's called now. But I'm doing the Dustland, which is it's basically a sampler of different stitches, and again you've got the I-cord edging and then all different stitch patterns on the inside, and my stitch marker to remind me which is the right side. I'm really enjoying knitting with this yarn as well. It's like, it's a rustic yarn, but it's a very soft rustic yarn. Not sure how I'll get on with it around my neck. It's not like bad doing that yarn rubbing on my face thing, but I'm really enjoying that. But I'm only knitting on that at knitting group on Thursday, so progress will be slow. But I'm enjoying the fact that that has got like a designated, this is when I knit on it, purpose. I feel really awkward in between talking about things. Oh, there's a bit more of that there. Then the final thing I've cast on, which I shouldn't have cast on some new socks. I should have gone to my sock box of doom. But I got this beautiful yarn from James Makes Yarns. He does like a lucky dip bag every so often. I don't think it's like a regular thing. I just think it's an as and when. And I've missed out every single time he's done them so far. So I set a reminder on my phone for the last ones he did, which November, December time, I think. And cast on these socks. I've done my usual vanilla sock, but I've done like a full colour cuff this time rather than just a little bit. And so 63 to 64, knit. And the contrast colour is this super vibrant neon pinky yarn, which is Malabrigo sock, which I think is actually a 3-ply yarn rather than like a 4-ply, so it's a little bit thinner than my usual sock yarn, but on heels and toes, yeah, it's 3-ply. On heels and toes it doesn't really make much difference, and I think they go together really well. The reason I picked this was because if you can see, there's little moments of pink in this yarn, and so I thought it would be a really nice contrast. I'm really happy with how they're coming out. This is like my car knitting project. I'm going to be knitting these on the way down to East Anglia Yarn Festival. I'm tempted to cast on the other cuff so that then I don't have to think about cuff knitting. I'm really enjoying like inside out cuff like that, like the 1x2. Maybe I need to do a sock with 1x2 ribbing, because it's like does the same thing, doesn't it? I'm really enjoying that. That could be something. I do have some socks I want to design, but I'll talk to you about them in another episode when I talk to you about my designing, my inspiration for designing and that kind of thing. I think that's kind of it really, with regards to what I've made, what I'm making. Oh, they're the knitting needles I'm using. The Chalgu Twist. I've never used them before. I was recommended them, and I'm getting on with them really well. I like 2.25mm needles for sock knitting, and these ones you get like one longer and one smaller tip, so you can hold the longer one in the hand that you're doing most of your knitting with, and the smaller one in the other hand. I bought these from Yarnworks on recommendation from my friends, and I'm really enjoying using this one. They're not really sharp on the ends, which I've struggled with needles like hires for, like the way I hold their smaller needles. I often like manage to like rip the skin on my finger. So these I've got on with really well. So I'd recommend them if you like 2.25mm sock needles, like, because I think Addy sock ones don't go down to this small, so definitely recommend those. And yeah, you can detach them from the cables and all kinds of things. So yeah, highly recommend those needles. I think I've talked to you about everything. I hope I've not talked too quickly, because I'm a little bit nervous / overexcited. I don't have any acquisitions to show you, because this year I'm really trying not to buy too much yarn. My ethos this year is kind of to knit from stash where possible, to shop what I've got and to make scrappy things and make beautiful things from what I have left over. That being said, I do have some yarn on the way. I've bought some linen quilt from Pearl Soho, because I want to make a half and half triangles wrap, but the kind of new, like, there's like a stripy version. I don't know how new it is, but I want to make that version of it. And then obviously I'm going to East Anglia Yarn Festival this weekend. I have a vague shopping list, but again, it's stuff to go with yarn I've got to finish project. Apart from one thing, I want to buy a skein of obscenely bright boucle yarn to make a bag with, like a little clutch bag. And I'm probably going to head to James Makes Yarn for that, because I just love the way he dyes yarn. It's so bright and so fun. None of my Unravel yarn purchases are actually on projects yet, because I'm trying to work my way through my list of things that are on my needles or things that are on my kind of making list. Like I said, on Instagram I've got a little category, story highlight, that's the word, saying like my plans for this year, like knit wise. I don't really plan out crochet so much. Crochet is very much an as and when. I do it much more as like a gifting thing now. I did a lot more crochet about 3-4 years ago, and then my kind of Instagram and just me generally has taken much more turn towards knitting, which I've been able to knit for probably since I was about 9 years old. I kind of learned to knit. I could like knit little bits on and off, like not really seriously, made a really like dodgy long scarf, that kind of thing. And then after I got married, I made my husband a hat, and then made like a few little bits here and there. I did quite a lot of hats and like baby knits for people who were having like, starting their families and things. And then obviously made stuff for my kids. But then I really kind of started flying with knitting probably 2020, to be honest. Like that's like when I really was like, you know what, I like knitting is my lifestyle, like I enjoy it so much. But then kind of like I was doing knitting and crocheting very much in tandem, like in equal amounts at that point, and it's very much shifted to I'm doing a lot more knitting now than crochet. But you will see crochet appear. Obviously you've seen the octopuses that I'm going to keep calling jellyfish, and I've got a few other crochet projects that I do want to make during the year. I really want to make the Mary Anning doll by Toft. Mary Anning was one of my childhood heroes, and I'll see if I can get a picture of her in here. This won't be my finished version, this is Toft's original version, but I'd really like to make that at some point. But I need to clear other projects before I can really put my head into that. I feel with crochet projects, I need to kind of do them start to finish, otherwise I kind of lose my gusto with them a little bit. Whereas knitting, I like to have, as you can see, projects I can dip in and out of for different purposes, for different things. My battery's about to run out, so I'm going to wind this up. Thank you so much for being here. I might film a little bit of footage of the bits I've made, show you some like slow-mos, I don't mean slow-mos, like, you know, pretty footage of things. I might show you a little bit about in the garden, because we've done a lot of work in the garden over the last few weekends, and the daffodils look absolutely beautiful. Coming up, so obviously going to East Anglia Yarn Festival, I'll take some footage, but not like I did for Unravel. I'll be back here to talk to you probably about the things I've made in March. Obviously there won't be anywhere near as much stuff, and I want to talk to you about my design, so that will be a whole new video at some point. And yeah, we'll just kind of see how it goes really and take it from there. I don't want to put my, like, shoehorn myself into the podcast genre, because I don't think I can uphold doing podcast after podcast after podcast, but I do feel that I've kind of hit the podcast brief entirely while being sat here. So yeah, thank you for joining me. My tea's kind of lukewarm because I've been talking to you for almost an hour now. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you.